All right, so we're going to go ahead and begin. So today, one of the things that I have seen women struggling with is their mindset around the situations that they find themselves in and how they can move forward. Because what I see is that we are built for cycles, and any woman knows that that cycle, that monthly cycle, is something that we look forward to. We look forward to seeing it as an indicator that things are going well. And we look forward to seeing it as an indicator, maybe if we're trying to conceive, that something has happened, right? So we are conditioned and, dare I say, actually created, not even conditioned, but created to depend on these cycles. And what happens is there are cycles of behavior, there are cycles of circumstances, there are so many different areas that we find ourselves stuck in. And what can happen is, because we know what to expect, we end up staying there. So this could be a relationship. This could be a job. This could be your diet. It could be growing your hair out. It could be anything. But we stick with what works. We stick in the familiar place. Some people call it the comfort zone, but I don't really think it's a comfort zone. I think it's a familiarity zone. So therefore, we stick with what is familiar, right? We stick with what we know how to navigate. All right. So it's like there's an expression, deal with the devil you have rather than dealing with a new devil. You know what to expect from this devil. But I don't think that's serving us, especially in a world that is changing and a world that is redefining what womanhood is. We have to be in a position to be able to define that for ourselves, right? And if we can't define for ourselves who we are, and we can't define what our own vision is for our lives, and we can't define our own desires, then we end up being in a situation where life is basically telling you who you are. Life is telling you what to want. Life is telling you what you want. And that strips you of the power that you have as a person and the power that you have to create the life that you actually want. So you find yourself conforming because you want to remain relevant, you know? You want to be with the trends. You want to be relevant on your job. You want to be relevant in your relationship. You want to be relevant in your friend group. And what can happen is you lose your sense of self. You lose your sense of identity. And I'm saying that because not only do I see it in women that I'm talking to, but I've experienced it in my own life. And when you build your life based on how you appear to other people, when you build your life based on who you are to everyone else, you put yourself at a disadvantage because you are now operating in a realm where you are not exploring your potential. You are not exploring your capabilities or your desires. And while serving other people and being there for others and being responsible in the different titles that you have and the different positions that you have within the lives of those who you interact with, that is extremely important. But you have to do it from a place of power. You have to do it from a place of knowing who you are so that you know how to show up and you know what you bring to the table. You know what value you add to the table. You have to know your own value and not seek validation from others. And a lot of us don't realize that we are seeking validation. We call it empowerment, we call it freedom, we call it all types of things. But a lot of us are actually seeking validation. And my hope is that while I'm talking to you this evening, just for a short time, because I'm going to take this off and then continue with the Zoom, but I wanted to share it in as many areas as I could with the technology that I have, so that you guys could actually start asking yourself these questions in your daily life. So I'm going to get right into it because I don't want this to be too long. Um, some months ago, while I was in my own journaling time, the whole concept of rewriting your story or rewriting even my story came to me. And it's something that I taught on at one point. And I'm going to bring it back up again because I believe that it's really going to help you to be able to examine your life. So, when you rewrite your story, I'm not actually talking about writing with a pen. I'm talking about rewriting your story as in setting it right. Because a lot of us are telling stories, and we're telling stories to ourselves. We're telling stories to God. We're telling stories to our friends and our families and our coworkers. And these stories may or may not be true, right? We may be telling the story that someone else wants to hear. We may be telling the story that sounds good to us, that sounds true to us. And what I really want to encourage you to do is to get to the truth. And sometimes getting to the truth is not pleasant. We talk about our truth. You know, what is your truth? What is my truth? I believe that there is an ultimate truth that we all can get to. And when we get to that place where we can be honest with ourselves, that is when we are really in a truly empowered place to live our best lives. Because if you're not willing to see the worst of yourself, how can you appreciate the best of yourself, right? So the R in rewriting your story, R-I-G-H-T, is for read. And I don't mean reading books. I'm talking about reading your lifestyle, reading your life. You know, we talk about reading the room or we talk about reading another person, but are we reading ourselves? And asking ourselves the question, what have I been writing with my lifestyle? What have I been writing with my mindset? How have I been showing up in the world? Because every choice that you make is going to open a new chapter in your life. Every single choice. So your choices with your finances, your choices with your diet, your choices with your mindset, your choices, of course, your job, and those things are going to create more income or less income for you. I've been in a situation where I was miserable at a job and I had to take a pay cut because I was like, I can't stay here anymore. It's not good for my mental state, even though the money was going to be less, right? And that opened a new chapter in my life because I was able to not only change jobs, but I was able to change careers. And that set me on a completely new trajectory. So think about those things. Every choice, tell yourself this, every choice I make opens a new chapter in my life, and be intentional about the choices that you're going to make. And we're going to get into that later because your vision is what is going to inform those choices. A lot of us are walking through life hoping for the best, waiting to see what happens because we're not really sure how this thing is going to play out. And I think in recent years, with all the things that have happened all across the world, a lot of us are feeling like we have no control. A lot of us are feeling like, well, it doesn't matter what I do because look at what else is going on. You know, do my dreams even matter? I'm just going to stay here and I'm going to make the most of what I have in this small space, right? And those of you who are joining on Instagram, I am also live on other platforms and I'm on Zoom. So I'll be answering questions afterwards. If you have questions, I am adding, you can just click the question button and I will answer your questions. So where was I? Every choice is opening a new chapter for you. So be mindful of the fact that when you make a choice, you are now changing the trajectory of your life and also changing the trajectory of the life of the people who are attached to you. So that could be your significant other, your children, your parents, your coworkers, you know, if you're a teacher, the children that you're teaching, your friends, everyone is affected by the choices that you make. And I know that we are told that we need to be empowered and we need to make our own choices. And yes, that is true. But that power that you have to choose affects other people. And it is important that while you are putting your needs first, absolutely, putting your vision first, absolutely, I believe that we also need to pay attention to the choices that we're making and how they affect the lives of the other people who are involved, because your choice is also a responsibility. And women have a major responsibility to shaping society, to shaping culture. And there are things that we are accepting as women that are eroding who we are, right? And a woman who doesn't know who she is not uh, valuable in society, right? And there's no other way for me to put it. Your value comes from who you are. So when you don't know who you are intrinsically, when you don't know who you are, what you're bringing is a manufactured version of you, not the authentic you. And the world needs the authentic you, because there's a reason for our individuality. There's a reason that God put you here, you specifically, you, with your gifts and your talents and what you bring to the table, what you bring to your marriage, what you bring to your job, what you bring to your children, how you show up in the world. Even the sound of your voice is essential, right? And we're not seeing ourselves that way, and it's a sad thing. So I want us to get to the point where we understand that we are significant. And I have an acronym for DREAM. And it stands for your dream being divine, relevant, empowering, accessible, and meaningful. So when there's something on your heart to do, and it could be something small, it could be something huge, it could be something that could have global impact, and it could be something that's just for you, it could be something that's just for your family or your neighborhood or a small group of people. In any case, it is relevant. And I believe that these are things that God places on our hearts because He uses us to make moves. He uses us actually. And I'm so sorry, I don't remember the woman's name right now. It is slipping me, but recently her family has been given recompense because her cells were used in cancer research, right? And I don't know if when she was lying in that hospital bed that she was thinking that she would change society in such a way, albeit unwillingly and unknowingly. We do not recognize the impact that we have. You have a major impact in your sphere. Do you know of a woman who, when she walks into the room shifts? For the good or the bad, the room shifts, right? We have power, we have influence, whether it's in a room, whether it's on social media, on a platform, it doesn't matter. We have influence. And every single choice that we make is writing a new chapter. So what are we writing with our lifestyle? What are we writing with our mindset? What are we writing with the way that we show up in the world? What are we writing with our interactions with people? Right? We stay where we know what to expect, even if what we expect isn't what we desire. So when we do that, what we're writing with that is that my choices don't matter, right? How I show up in the world doesn't matter. That's what we're actually writing. When we stay where we know what to expect. So that dead end job, that dead relationship that doesn't seem to be going anywhere, that has absolutely no hope of going anywhere, and yet you're putting up with treatment that is less than what you deserve or desire, that is writing the story with your lifestyle that there is nothing else that is better out there for you. Right? When you say, like I used to say, my brain is full, I can't learn anything else. And that was a lie. right? And we keep telling ourselves these lies that limit us. We tell ourselves things that limit us. When you are in a situation where you are accepting less than you desire and you're telling yourself, this is all that could happen and this is all there is, and things are not going to get any better, and I'm not going to move on from here, then you now have no way of coming out of that cycle because you're repeating the same thing back to yourself. You may not be doing it out loud. You may not be standing in the mirror and saying it like it's an affirmation, but it's in there, right? So when you read your life, if it keeps telling you you're stuck, you can't change anything, you're repeating those same cycles. And then it doesn't matter if you change your job or you change your relationship or you change your diet, you keep coming back to the same place. So if you've been moving around from one job to another, one relationship to another, trying different diets, your finances are all over the place, that is a mindset thing. And I think that's something that we are not taught. We are taught how to look good. We are taught how to sound good. We are taught what is expected of us externally, but not how to create the character and the integrity and the discipline that it takes to have those things in our lives. First, you have to be, then you can do, and then you can have, right? That's the way that it works. But we're not taught how to be better. Do you understand what I'm saying? We're taught how to look better. We're taught how to make it look good. And this is something that has been really on my mind lately. From what I've been observing, we make things look easy, right? We make it look easy, and we're told, don't let them see you sweat, right? um be the strong one, be unbothered. And what that does is it creates a false sense of reality. It creates a false sense of reality for the woman who's faking it. And then it also creates a false sense of reality for the people around her. Because what now happens is that she's showing up as if she's strong, but she's crumbling inside, right? And she puts on her makeup and she fixes her hair and she shows up in the world, because that's what we're encouraged to do. Still show up, even when it hurts, still show up. And absolutely, there are seasons of your life where you will have to push through. There are seasons of your life where you have no choice but to show up. Especially, you have children, you have a family who's depending on you, you have a business, you have to show up, right? I had this call that I needed to do, and later on to be talking to people one on one. I have to show up. I had an issue that I had to deal with earlier today, but I still had to get myself together and show up here. That is today. That is not how I live my life. And that is not how I believe you should be living your life either. Because if you're in a situation where every single day is a struggle, if you're in a situation where every single day you have to suck it up and pull yourself together, and you've been doing that for months, for years, without any way to change or any way out, you have to ask yourself, am I creating this situation? Am I creating this mindset? Like, is this actually in my head? Does this have to be my reality? And I'm going to give you an example. So if any of you have seen my testimony on Instagram, you would know that I had an issue of blood for 10 plus years, right? So what that basically means, for those of you who do not understand, it was like I had a never-ending period. And I talked about cycles earlier, right? So a woman who has a healthy menstrual cycle is going to be bleeding anywhere between 3 and, let's say, 7 days out of the month. I was stretching on 2 weeks, sometimes 3 weeks in any given month, right? I won't get all into it, but this is a life. This is something that was happening to me for 10 plus years. This was something that was completely outside of my control, right? And I would always be the one to be encouraging people and to be cheering people on, to tell people, go after your dreams. have a positive attitude and do all these things, because this is what I was telling myself. But it was almost like this toxic positivity, because I felt so desperate to be happy that I didn't acknowledge what was hurting me. I didn't acknowledge what I was going through. I didn't acknowledge my own disappointment. And I think that's something that we do on so many levels. We don't acknowledge our own disappointment in life, right? And when you don't acknowledge your disappointment and you tell yourself, this is as good as it gets, gonna hope for the best, we'll see what happens. What that does is it reinforces that helplessness, and we are not helpless, right? We are not helpless. We can change our lives. We absolutely can change our lives. Yes, there are things that are outside of our control, but I will tell you, the majority of the things that we worry about are within our control. The majority of things that we worry about, the very act of worrying, is within our control. So changing your mindset from a mindset of worrying and mulling over and keeping yourself stuck in a cycle to the mindset of, how do I create a victorious vision that's going to help me see my way out of this situation? How am I going to create a victorious vision that's going to allow me to see my way in this situation? Right? So it's not just about taking care of the thing and making it go away. Because I will tell you, in those 10 years where I was going through the same thing over and over again, a lot of change was happening inside me as I started to peel back the layers. So even as you're listening to me and you may be questioning the things that are happening in your own life and what you are writing with your lifestyle and with your mindset and with your attitude and with your habits, start to think about, how do I create a victorious vision that helps me see better, right? Because when you can see what's happening in a situation, it becomes less about the situation. And you start to see how you can grow as a person, how you can learn. There may be lessons that you are not learning in that situation, and that's what's keeping you stuck. There may be things that you refuse to see in that situation, and that's what's keeping you stuck, because it cannot always be somebody else's fault. Everything that we go through in life that is difficult or is unpleasant cannot always be somebody else's fault. So what have you been writing with your lifestyle? Imagine if your life is a story or your life is a movie. This is how I like to put it across. If your life was a movie or a book, what would the title of that movie or that book be? Your life as it is now, right? And the next thing is the I in write is imagine, right? So after we've done that work and we've really looked at our lives and we have assessed where we are, we have assessed and come to a place of honesty about where we are with our life and what we actually feel about it, then imagine, allow yourself to dream. And I did a series, if you haven't watched it, it's on my YouTube channel. It's called the Full Permission Challenge. And I did a series about that. Permission to forgive yourself, right? Permission to feel pleasure, permission to heal from your pain. All these things block us from dreaming again because we don't give ourselves permission to move on from that stuck cycle where we are, right? That whole thought of this is as good as it gets is absolute hogwash. This is not as good as it gets. God did not put you here for you to just sit and take whatever life is dishing out, right? You were made to conquer. You were made to overcome. Yes, there are blocks. Yes, there are challenges, but you can absolutely overcome those challenges, right? So if you haven't watched that, I encourage you to. It's a series of 6 videos, and I may be adding to it as the months go on, as I get more revelation. Because as I talk to other women, these are things that I see coming up. They're patterns that I may see coming up, and I would want to get that information out there and help you as much as possible. So look at what is blocking you. Look at what is blocking your vision. And as you start to get more insight into yourself, as you start to get more insight, into what is actually happening inside of you and what is actually happening around you and how you are contributing to what's happening around you. Because let's face it, we do contribute to the situations that we find ourselves in. Then you can see what those walls are that maybe you've put up, what those doors are that are locked, and then you will see what you need to do to unlock those doors, right? And when I talk about insight, there's something I developed. I call it the A-list assignment. It is actually a free preview of the vision sequence course. So if you have been considering working with me and you're not really sure about my style and you're not really sure about how I do things, the A-list assignment is an introduction to you. If you are interested in that, just send me a message. I will send you the link and you can go ahead and take part in that free preview. And I'd love to hear your feedback on that. But there are 5 elements to the A-list assignment. And this is something that helps you get in touch with who you are. Because as I said, we are not taught to examine ourselves. We're not taught to explore ourselves. We're not taught to explore who we are. You know, you go to school, you learn your subjects. One of the most important subjects that you will ever learn in life is yourself. We know so much about other people. We know about our spouses. We know about our children. We know what they want. We know how they want it. We know when they want it. We know how to anticipate their needs, and yet don't know our own needs, and yet don't know what we want, because we continue to put ourselves on the back burner. And that whole concept of sacrifice and a mother's sacrifice and a woman's sacrifice, laying down everything for those that you love, there is a season for that. There is absolutely a season for that. And there is absolutely a season to nurture yourself, to nurture the woman you are, so that you can show up for all those people, so that when you make the decision to sacrifice, you're not doing it at the cost of your soul, right? Because you can't do it at the cost of your soul, because what you're now giving everyone else is a broken version of you, right? What you're now giving everyone else is not the real you. It's what you think they want. It's what you think they need. And then you're running around like, it's like you put on this face for the significant other, and you put on this face for the child, and you put on this face for the job, and you put on this face for social media. And then it's like, who am I at the end of the day? Like, who am I? And getting to the core of who you are is going to help you to show up powerfully in the world. Standing in your kitchen, you're going to be powerful. In the boardroom, you're going to be powerful. When you know yourself, a woman who knows herself is a force to be reckoned with. And Christian women who believe that, who believe in this sense of humility, where you don't say anything and you don't do anything and you're as quiet as a mouse. I'm sorry. God did not put you here for you to dumb down everything that he has placed inside of you. Does that mean that every woman is called to take over the world? Absolutely not. But every woman is called to impact every room that she enters. Whether that's a physical room, whether that's a spiritual room, every woman is called to make an impact. And when you put yourself on the A-list, you appreciate your attributes, you affirm your value, you articulate your dreams, you act authentically, and you access abundant life. Does that mean you now live in the Maldives? No, it does not. Abundance is a fullness, right? And people talk about being full of yourself. being full of yourself, but you should absolutely be full of yourself, because you should be 100% you. Filter out everything that is not you. Filter out everything that is blocking you from being all that you are called and created to be. So when you start dreaming again, write it down. And this is absolutely important in Habakkuk 2:2. So many of you know about this verse where it says, write the vision, make it plain, so that he who reads it can run with it. The first person to read your vision is you. So the ideas that are mulling around inside your head, the things that are tugging on your heart that you want to do, the type of relationship that you want to have, the way you want to decorate your home, it could be anything. Doesn't matter how big, doesn't matter how small. Write it down. Get a place. I have a journal, Instagram, Facebook. I have a journal that I use to write these things down. Even today, earlier today, I was writing these things down. Write them down, revisit them. It's not stupid. It's not a waste of time. Have you ever watched TV or you seen an ad and then you're like, man, I thought about doing that like 15 years ago. I remember I thought about doing that, but I didn't have the resources, or I didn't have this, or I didn't have that, or I didn't have the time, right? Write those things down and look at them daily. Pray over these things. You pray for your children, you pray for your friends, you pray for your family, pray for yourself, pray for your dreams, pray for your goals. And if you feel like I don't have any dreams, I don't have any goals, pray that God will give you insight and revelation to revive those dreams and goals that you once had. Because I'm sure you ask any child what they want to be, and they could come up with 10 different things because they believe that they can do all these things all at the same time. I'm going to be a singer. I'm going to be a doctor. I'm going to be a chef. I'm going to be 25 different things. But as we get older and people tell us, no, 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 you have to pick this one thing and you have to be this one thing. Absolutely not. Does this mean that you have to have 10 jobs? No, but it means that you explore the different aspects of you and you don't have to be tied down to this one thing. It could be as simple as likes and dislikes. It could be as simple as trying different foods. It could be wearing your hair differently. Do different things, explore different things, right? Read. Don't just listen to celebrity gossip. Don't just listen to the same old conversations over and over again. And I will tell you, one thing that is an imagination killer is staying in the same circle, or having a circle. A close-knit circle is important and a close-knit circle is good, but what are you bonding over? Are you bonding over shared pain? Right? Or are you bonding over shared purpose and shared possibility? What topics are the women in your life discussing? Right? Is there anyone in your circle who's thinking outside the box? Or are you guys just having the same conversations over and over and over again? Who in your circle has grown and done something amazing in the last 6 months or in the last year, done something courageous, right? Maybe she's lost weight. Maybe she's started a business, maybe she's trying something new. Maybe she's learning a new language. Who in your circle is doing things that inspire you? You absolutely need that. And if you don't have that in your circle, in your real life circle of people that you actually know, the internet is available to you. So there are people out there. There are people who have podcasts. There are people who have YouTube channels. There are people who are teaching and doing amazing things for free. If you want advice about who maybe you can follow and who could help you out, send me a message and I'll let you know. I know lots of coaches, authors, people who have done amazing things, and people who have programs, who have books, who can help you. right? But that goes back to knowing your vision. If you know your own personal vision and you know what it is that you want to do with your life, then you're going to be able to move forward in a certain direction. But if you don't know what you want, you're going to seek to be distracted, and you're going to do what makes you feel good in the moment and not what makes you actually become better in the future, right? So imagine if anything, and it's a simple question, and people find this very difficult. If anything was possible, and it is, right? If anything was possible, and it is, what would you create? This is August. It is August 8th. We're pretty much in the middle of the year. We have a little less than 5 months left in the year. If anything was possible in the next 4 months and however many weeks in the year, what would you do? What would you create? Right? What would be possible for you in your life on January 1st, 2024? What would you be smiling about? Right? If you felt that you were powerful enough, empowered enough, had enough faith, had enough vision to create something new in your life. Would it be weight loss? Would it be a new job? Would it be a new relationship? Would it be being single for some of you, right? What would it be? So the G is grow, because the life that you lead now is because of where you are now. And once you have determined what you want your future to look like, you're going to have to grow into that version of yourself, right? You're going to have to grow into a new person. And that takes work. So you'll need to commit to becoming a better version of you. Commit to becoming a better wife. Commit to becoming a better mother. Commit to becoming a better employee. Growth happens best. Discovery, let me say it this way. I believe that discovery can happen best in isolation and also in small groups. This is why I love talking to people one-on-one, because you get to really draw out the things that we don't really think about. The reason that we are uncomfortable with silence and uncomfortable with being still is because we don't know ourselves well enough to enjoy our own company. And if you commit to becoming a better version of you, you're going to have to learn to enjoy your own company. You're going to have to learn to enjoy discovering your own thoughts and your own feelings and your own needs. And that's an important thing. So commit to becoming a better version of you. Find or create a group to nurture that next version of you. Because for some of you, where you are going, the dreams and the visions and the goals that you have are not going to be supported with the group of people that you're currently involved in, because they don't get it. They don't understand where you are. They don't understand what you're trying to do with life. They don't understand why you even talk about the things that you talk about. And I can tell you that from my personal experience. So I actually had to find a group who was growing along with me. And it's amazing to watch other women bloom in their own garden, right? So it's not like we were competing against each other. We were all blooming and growing in our own way. And I committed to 3 months with these women, and a lot of them have become friends, lifelong friends. We have women who have become so close that they have taken part in each other's weddings and different things like that. And these are women who met basically online, because for me, this happened during the pandemic when I met this group of women. right? Now things have thankfully opened back up and we're able to go out and we're able to do different things. So find or create a group that's going to nurture that next version of you, that next level version of you. Because here's what happens. You are comfortable within a certain group, and that group knows what to expect from you, and you know what to expect from them. And when you start acting differently, they're not going to know how to handle that version of you, right? And if you aren't sure about your own personal vision and you aren't sure about where it is that you're going in life, and your conviction and your drive is not strong enough to get there, what you find is you start and then you stop, because your life, your circle, your circumstances aren't bending and shaping and expanding the way that you want it to, right? What you need to do is become bigger on the inside and increase your capacity to hold who you actually are. And when you do that, you show up differently. You find that it's not that you no longer consider other people's feelings and you don't consider other people's thoughts, right? You can consider them from an empowered place, right? You can consider them from an authentic place. You can consider them from a place of integrity that says, I honor you, but I will not dishonor myself, and I will not dishonor my dreams, and I will not dishonor my goals or my standards in order to make you comfortable and in order to make you happy. This by no means says that we go out of our way to make other people unhappy and make other people uncomfortable. But it also by no means does not mean that we continue to dumb down and diminish who we are in order to make other people happy. And I hope that that part is clear, because that's something that I'm constantly having to remind people about. It's something that I have struggled with in my own life. So this is why it's necessary to do the work, because what you feed is going to grow. So you need to be in an environment that's going to feed the next version of you, that's going to nurture the next version of you so that you can grow into that person. What the next level version of you needs is going to be determined by those dreams that you have outlined, by those dreams and goals that you have outlined. When you imagine, when you sit down and you visualize, what could my life really look like if I take the limits off and I decide to start trying new things? I decide to start showing up differently, right? Your needs don't look like other people's needs, right? So that's why it's necessary to do your own work. That's why it's necessary for some of you, even after this, watching this, you might go and start doing some things differently. You might go and start writing some things down because you're ready to do the work and you're ready to create your vision. And some of you are going to need someone to hold your hand through the process, right? So your needs don't look like anyone else's, and the level you're at is not going to look like anyone else. So don't look at another woman and say, well, look at her. She was able to do X, Y, and Z. Why can't I do it? Because she's not you. You know, she has a different drive. She has different reasons. She has different resources. And the destiny and the trajectory for her life is different from yours. You're not called or required to be just like anybody else, right? So this is why knowing your own personal vision is what's going to lead you, because your own personal vision is going to lead you to be in alignment with those who are going to not only help you get there, but those who also you are called to serve on the way to your personal vision. But if you keep showing up as a version of yourself that other people expect, you then rob those people of what they need from you. And you rob yourself of the opportunity to see what you are capable of. The next thing is something that we avoid. When I talked earlier about showing up strong and showing up in a way that we cover our suffering, right? We suffer in secret and we hide. And this thought of the woman who's crying in the shower, she's crying in the shower, or she closes the door because she doesn't want other people to see what she's going through. She doesn't want other people to see how broken she is, right? So it's the restroom at work, it's your bedroom, it's your bathroom, it's you turning your face in traffic and just the tear falls. You know how we do, the tear falls and you suck it up and you pretend like it's okay. And then further on down the day, like, you feel better, right? So you don't stop and deal with the thing, and then it comes back, and then you cry again and you suck it up, and you keep putting it off, you keep putting that emotion off, you keep putting off your disappointment, putting off feeling your disappointment. And this is something I say, and I hope that this resonates with you, and I really hope that it sticks with you. You have to let yourself feel so that you can deal, so that you can heal. Healing will not come to areas of your life that you do not acknowledge. And if you want to rewrite your story, rewrite a story that serves you, rewrite a story that serves your vision, rewrite a story for those of you like me who are Christian that gives God glory. God will not get glory from a broken area that you don't acknowledge and you don't allow healing to be a part of, right? And you have to let yourself be better. And letting yourself be better means acknowledging, if I have a cut on my arm and it's bleeding and I never address it, guess what? I'm going to be bleeding everywhere. And that's what happens. We don't acknowledge things about ourselves that are broken. We don't acknowledge the broken and bleeding areas in our lives. And when we don't acknowledge the broken and bleeding areas in our lives, we get blood on everything and everyone around us, right? And especially those of you who say that you care deeply about your loved ones, right? Your family and those close friends sometimes get the worst version of us because we're not dealing with those areas that we want to deal with. And trust me, you will not be disappointed in an area in which you have no desire. So saying, oh, it doesn't bother me, it's okay, I don't mind that I don't have this, or I don't mind that I don't have that, or saying that you don't want something that you know deep in your heart that you want, right? That is a broken area that needs healing. So it doesn't always mean that you have heartbreak. It doesn't always mean that you're coming out of a bad relationship. You might need healing from something that you're going through at work. You might need healing from something that happened at church. You might need healing from a relationship with your best friend that has gone sour. You might need healing from hurt from a child. There are older women who I've spoken to who have shared things that I want to be delicate with this. Sometimes you raise a child and that child goes off and they do their own thing, right? And they might be blaming you for the way that their life turned out, right? They might be blaming you for your husband leaving. They might be blaming you for even the death of a spouse. They might be blaming you for all types of different things, right? And now that relationship is broken. Now that relationship is severed. For some people, there can be reconciliation. And for some people, that reconciliation isn't happening. And you're going to have to be able to move on. When reconciliation cannot happen in that moment, getting to a place where you can acknowledge what's hurting inside of you allows you to be able to apply whatever needs to be applied to that broken thing, right? So let's treat it like if, yeah, it's a cut. Does it need stitches? Does it need a Band-Aid? Is it a broken bone that's sticking out and that's why it's cut, right? So acknowledge what it is that's happening inside of you. And that healing is not always going to feel good, but it's necessary for your next level because you cannot walk wounded into a healthy future. There is absolutely no way that you're going to walk with that wound into a healthy future, right? So let your mind and your heart get well so that those things that you have imagined and those things that you have dreamed can actually happen. Go back to your goals and ask yourself those things that you've written down. Did I think up these things? Is this desire based in pain? Because we can make some revenge goals, right? If people have hurt us, and as a result of people hurting us, there are women who have lost weight, they have changed jobs, they have bought houses and cars and changed their entire lives because someone hurt them, someone in their family, a broken relationship, and they said, you know what, I'm going to show them. I'm going to show them how amazing I can be. And while that's great that you can accomplish things, be careful of your motives, right? Because if your motive is pain, and if your motive is proving someone wrong, and if your motive is showing up for yourself so that they can see how amazing you are, and then want you back so that you can then tell them, no, I don't want you anymore. I don't want you in my life anymore, and X, Y, and Z, right? That's a very unhealthy place to set your goals from. So be very careful about setting goals from a place of pain and a place of desperation. That could be your motivating factor initially, but if you're not doing it for you, and if you're doing it from a place of pain, you're actually going to seek out ways to reinforce that pain in order to keep yourself motivated, right? And that becomes a very slippery slope. So heal so you don't carry that hurt with you, because you want to walk into your future whole. You want to walk into your future healed, or at the very least, healing, right? The last one is testify. Now, I don't mean get up in church and testify. That could be a part of it, but talk about what you're doing. One of the things in the A-List assignment that I talk about is articulating your dream. And when you articulate your dream, what that actually means is you're saying, this is what I want, and this is what I expect. And it's extremely important that you communicate that, especially if you've been showing up differently in your life up until a certain point. You're going to need to communicate to others, this is my new standard. This is where I'm going. And it doesn't mean making a public service announcement, right? But it means that your language is going to have to change. The way you talk about your life is going to have to change. The way you talk about yourself is going to have to change. The way you talk about other people, it's going to have to change, right? Because the next level version of you, she has a language. And if you keep speaking the language of this version of you, she doesn't get to come into existence because she needs to hear you and you need to hear her. So when you write that vision, she's the one talking to you, right? When you write that vision and you decide, this is the way that I want my life to be, this is the standard of life that I want to have, this is the joy that I want, right? This is the type of relationship that I want to have. This is what I want to experience. A lot of the time when you ask women what they want in life, they start going down this laundry list of what the man's gonna look like, and the type of house and the type of decor and stuff like that. Think about your vision on a deeper level. How do you want to feel? Right? Integrity and authenticity are two things that are extremely important to me. There are absolutely physical items, financial goals, and things like that that I have for my life. But I also have spiritual goals. I also have emotional goals. I have mental goals. There's a certain way that I want to feel and a certain way that I want to walk through my life. There's a certain way that I want to show up. So when I've stated that vision and I can read that and I can reference that, it's like creating a textbook for how you're going to live your life. Excuse me. It's like creating a textbook for how you want to live your life. So what ends up happening now is you have a reference manual where you can now come back to this thing and you can say, all right, this is what I am measuring my life against. Then you start creating a strategy. While you're creating that strategy, you're interacting with other people, right? You're not just completely shut off from life and you go shut yourself away for 6 months and you go do these things and you come out looking like someone different, right? You still have to get up and go to work. You still have to show up for your family. You still have to take your children to school. You still have to go through life. You still have to walk through life. And those people who are used to seeing you a certain way are going to need some kind of feedback, some kind of communication from you that's saying, I'm doing things differently now, right? So that communication is two ways. It is talking to the future version of you, and that's through writing things down. So like I said, when you write the vision, that's the future version of you talking to you. You have to talk back to that version of you and agree with that version of you, right? And it's my belief that when you prayerfully and intentionally set your vision, you're aligning yourself with the version of you that God created you to be, not the version of you that you made up, right? And this is when alignment and authenticity, right, and integrity are so important because your soul knows when you're faking it, right? Your soul knows. And no matter how good it looks, your soul is going to know, you know what, I'm lying to myself. And then you feel like a fake. Imposter syndrome is one thing, but you know when you're faking it. You know when you're trying to be more or less than you're called to be, right? So testify, talk about what you're doing, and know that not everyone can carry your vision with you and not everyone should. So this doesn't mean talk to everyone about your vision. And this goes back to what I was talking about in the growth aspect of it, is to create or find a group of people who you can vibe with, right? Who understand what it is that you're going through, who understand where your vision is taking you, at least on a level where they can encourage you and they can support you along the way. Because what happens when you've done the inner work and you get to a point where you start talking about the things that you want to do and you start saying, I'm going to the gym, I'm gonna change my diet, you know, these are the things that I want to accomplish. I want to go back to school. And then you have people saying, oh, why you want to do that? You know, and they come up with excuses for you. Even if you didn't have any excuses, they start coming up with excuses for you. You have to be able to talk back and say, no, this is the vision that I have for my life. This is where my life is heading. And I'm sure about this. I'm sure about what I want, and I'm not backing down. Because a lot of us have done some inner work and we've gone through different processes. We get to a certain point and we go right back to where we started. And then it's worse because you know how far you've come, right? You know the steps that you had to climb to get to a certain level. And then you're like, man, how could I let myself down like that? How could I let myself slip back? Right? So remind yourself also what you've already done. Remind yourself what you've done. Remind yourself what you're happy about. I actually created a planner for myself. And one of the things that I do is at the end of the month, I go back and I look at what have I accomplished for that month that's getting me closer to my goals. It's like a self-evaluation. If you're at a job, you're going to have an evaluation, right? You're going to have an evaluation from your employer, and your employer has a vision. Your company has a vision. Your job is aligned with that vision. And based on whatever is required for that job, they are going to expect you to meet certain criteria. So this is what you're doing. You're setting this criteria for yourself and then going back and saying, all right, I planned on losing 20 pounds within this certain space of time. I wanted to work out 4 days a week, and I've been working out 3 days a week. Wow, I really made some progress here. Right? And then you're able to see how far you've come. You're able to clap for yourself, because I guarantee you, some of your major, absolute major accomplishments are going to be in private. The acknowledgement of some of those major accomplishments, it's going to be in private. And it's going to be a knowing inside of you where you realize, oh, wait, I'm not responding the way I used to respond. I'm not showing up the way I used to show up. I would have backed down when that person said X, Y, and Z to me. I would have backed down, but I didn't. I stood up for myself. I stood my ground. And without you saying a word to anyone else, right? You've now celebrated a victory, because we're talking about that version of you that's on the inside that needs to emerge, right? And if you don't acknowledge her the same way you want to be acknowledged, right? If you don't acknowledge that version of you and celebrate when those developments happen, what ends up happening is you are going to continue looking outside of yourself for the validation. And that validation may not even come. You know why? There are people who are used to the old version of you, and they don't yet know how to handle the new version of you. And they're going to oppose you. Not intentionally. Some of them are so well-intentioned. They love you. They want the best for you. Some of them are afraid for you because they're like, what are you doing? They don't understand. And some of them are afraid of losing you, right? Because they're insecure for their own reasons. Whatever story they're telling themselves, right? So talk about what you are doing. Talk about it to yourself. Talk about it to a select group of people who you can trust, right? That safe space. If you can find a group on Facebook, you can hire a coach, whatever it is that you need, right? But talk about what you're doing. Journal what is lining up with your vision and what is making room for your next level. And live your story. It's a journey, right? Understand that it is a journey, and it's going to take time, and it's going to take work. And you might even find yourself having to repeat steps. But even if you have to repeat steps, you're not repeating them on the same level. And I'm going to end with this, but I saw something earlier that said something like, don't quit, because if you quit now, you're going to end up right where you started. The only way that you're going to end up right where you started is if you've been walking in a circle, right? So if you start here and you walk in a circle and you stop right here, then yeah, you've ended up where you started. But I want to flip that, because what I believe is when you start walking towards your vision, even if you feel like you're walking in a circle, and I'm a very visual person and I don't have my dry erase board, but I would be able to to explain it better if I did. Take this circle and flip it. Have you ever seen a slinky? You know, when you expand a slinky, it's actually a spiral going up like this. And this is a misconception because we think that when we go around, depending on how it, if you're being intentional, when you walk around like this, you don't end up on the same level. When you walk around like this, there's a slight incline and you're constantly doing the work. What you're doing is, it may feel like you're going around in circles, but every revolution of that circle is taking you higher. It's taking you to the next level, right? And that's how you want to think about it. Intentional daily steps. I call them daily transformational experiences. And it can be as simple as reading a book. It can be as simple as prayer. It can be as simple as journaling. It can be as simple as listening to a podcast. It can be as simple as having deep and meaningful conversation, right? But make sure that you are building those daily transformational experiences into your lives. And I'm going to stop here because I want to leave some time for questions and then some time afterwards for anyone who has anything that they want to ask me one-on-one. But I really hope that this helped. I hope that I have given you some food for thought, and I hope that I have given you a good strategy that you can use to help you at least get started to rewrite your story. So again, that's read. What have you been writing with your lifestyle? So read that, read it back to yourself in your mind. What have you been writing with your lifestyle? Imagine, right? R is read, I is imagine. Allow yourself to dream again. G is grow, commit to becoming a better version of you. H is heal, let yourself be better and do things that facilitate your actual healing. And then T is testify, talk about what you're doing, right? And then live that story, right? Live the journey, walk it out. All right. I hope this helps. Thank you so much for your time, your attention. I really appreciate you. And I will see you all very soon. Instagram, I'll be back. Thank you guys. Bye. Bye, Facebook. Instagram, and Zoom. All right, so I am